So today we are going to understand what are the sections applicable for the given questions in the civil paper in the recent AP JCJ mains examination 2025. So before going into the explanation regarding these questions, I must say that this time it's a very easy paper. So the first timers who are attending this exam this year, it's very easy compared to previous year's papers. Both the papers like civil, criminal, English, everything is minimal with basic direct questions. So I hope everyone have written the exam very well. So let's get into this question paper analysis of civil paper. So the first question, direct question, explain, define res judicata. So you will be writing section 11 of CPC. So it is that the matter is directly and substantially in issue in the former suit, and the former suit is already decided or adjudicated, and you cannot go for a relitigation on the same suit. So that is res judicata. And next, short notes on lispendence. So section 52 of Transfer of Property Act, where a suit is pending in a competent court regarding a property and you cannot go with the sale of that property. So this is lispendence. You can write the example or illustration for that. So next is estoppel. They have given it from Evidence Act, section 115. So estoppel is nothing but a person by his declaration or act, he intentionally causes some other person to believe whatever he said, and later he cannot deny the truth. So this is on a short regarding estoppel. So this question, write a brief note on features of mortgage, pledge, hypothecation. This is already given in the previous year paper also, and it's a repeated question this time too. So here if you can see direct questions, mortgage, pledge, hypothecation, floating charge. So mortgage section 58 of Transfer of Property Act, pledge 172 of Contracts Act, whereas hypothecation and floating charge are not specifically defined, but still we have certain explanation for both. So here only the mortgage is related to immovable property as a security, but whereas pledge, hypothecation, floating charge, they are related to movable property, right? So floating charge is nothing but where a charge will shift basing on future or the present interest. It just shifts. So that is called as floating charge. A charge on present or future assets and movable property. So it is actually a debenture security, for example. So for mortgage, if you see an example such as house loan, and for a pledge is nothing but a bailment of goods as security. So it can be a gold loan. For hypothecation here, you can understand that this is a charge on movable property without any transfer of possession. So here, let us say some example like a car loan. So that falls under hypothecation. So all these are few examples for a better understanding I have just given here. So the next one is a problem, and it is easily understandable. If you can see here, a person has instituted a suit against B for specific performance of an agreement of sale. And during the pendency of this suit, the defendant transferred the suit scheduled property by way of registered sale deed in favor of C. So if you can see here clearly, during the pendency of the suit, the defendant has transferred the suit scheduled property, so which has not to be done. So here there is a section 52 lispendence according to Transfer of Property Act, and here after such thing what has happened, C got impleaded as a defendant in the suit. That means C is added as a party to the suit as a defendant by the court, because whatever the judgment is given it will be binding on this person also. So he has been impleaded by the court as a defendant in this suit. So now what explain the defenses available to see with relevant provisions of law. So for this you will write 52 according to Transfer of Property Act lispendence, and also Specific Relief Act 19B you will write it regarding that, where C can show that he is a bona fide purchaser and has got the purchase without any notice of such situation. So these two sections can be written under section 3, under question 3 here. So under question 3, part B, they asked about principles of law pertaining to proof of wills. So for this question, you have to write section 68 of Evidence Act. If you can add, you can also add section 63 of Indian Succession Act. So all privilege of wills, unprivileged wills. So all these follow related to wills and the proof of wills. So here you will write how the attestation needs to be done and how you need to prove the attestation and the signature of the testator. So all these things you will be writing under section 68. So the next question, state whether a document compulsorily registrable but not registered can be admitted in evidence. If so, for what purpose? It's a very direct question, guys. So almost all the questions are direct in the paper this time. So here you will write compulsory registrable documents. You will write section 17 speaks about compulsory registrable documents. And they asked if those documents are not registered, can they be admitted in evidence? So this speaks particularly about section 49, the effect of non-registration of the particular documents that need to be registered. So in general, we cannot admit those documents under evidence if they are compulsory registrable and not registered. But there is an exception under section 49 if those documents fall under any suit for specific performance or for used for any collateral purpose transactions, then you can still use those documents and they are admitted in evidence. So that is section 49. So now under question 4b part, they asked related provisions related to Limitation Act for computation of limitation in case of persons under legal disability. So this is also a direct question. Section 6 of Limitation Act deals with this. So if a person is minor, insane or an idiot, so when cause of action arises, the limitation will begin and when the disability ceases. So these things you need to write under section 6 of Limitation Act here. And the next question, part C. So this is generally a question which is not directly related in the act, in particular any of the sections. We need to understand the question and write the scenario here. So write a brief note on powers of Karta of Hindu joint family to alienate joint family property. So the question asked is, when does the karta of the joint family party disposes the rights or divides the property among the joint family? So that's the question. So you will write the basic ingredients. So who is a karta? A karta will be a head of the family. So when will he get to dispose the property among the family members? So when there is a legal necessity or when there is some indispensable duties like marriage or funeral expenses, so all these things you will write under this question. So that is basically a general question just to understand what powers will he have. So he's the head of family and he can divide the property and in so and so basic conditions he can do it. So the coming to the next questions, fifth and sixth. So direct questions, guys. So all these three. 5A, they asked about to write when will a plaint be rejected. So you need to write Order 7, Rule 11. So it has some grounds, right? Some circumstances where the plaint will be rejected. So these circumstances are nothing but if the plaint is having no cause of action, or if the relief claimed be like some undervalued, or if the plaint is insufficiently stamped, or if the suit is barred by law, or if the plaint is not filed in duplicate. So all these rules fall under this order, Rule 11. These are the circumstances. So B speaks about primary evidence and secondary evidence question is asked. So for this you need to write Section 62 and 63 of Evidence Act. So all the originals fall under primary evidence, whereas the copies fall under the certified copies, or the counterparts of primary evidence fall under the secondary evidence, right? And easement. So easement direct definition, Easements Act, Section 4. So you will write regarding a right to possess by a owner or an occupier of certain land to get some beneficial enjoyment of the other land which is not his own. So for this you will write what is a dominant heritage. So dominant heritage is something that where you have the beneficial enjoyment over that land. That land is called as dominant heritage. And the owner of that land is called as dominant owner. Whereas servant owner is on which land the liability arises. That is the servant heritage, and the owner of that land is called as servant owner. So now if you see question 7, so the first question, the section is already mentioned in the question itself. The concept of feeding the title set out in section 43 of Transfer of Property Act. So according to this section, it in simple meaning to understand, this is called feeding the grant by estoppel. So under this 43 section of Transfer of Property Act, you will write that transfer by a person who is having without the title to transfer that property. But later, this person acquires the title. So the transferor intended to transfer his interest in good faith when he is not having the title. And later he cannot tell that he has done such a transfer even though he is not possessing the title. So that is called as feeding the grant or feeding the title by estoppel. And next question, decree, judgment, direct definitions, 2 of 9 and 2 of 2 of CPC. So you will write what is a judgment, what is a decree. So statement given by judge on grounds of decree and order is judgment. So decree, a decree is some formal expression of adjudication. So it involves rights of parties. It can be preliminary, it can be final, it can be partly preliminary, partly final. So what includes decree, what doesn't include decree? So you'll write all this. The next question, liability of surety under the contract. So where do you find this surety? So we are talking here about contract of guarantee under section 126. So there will be three parties in this form of contract, right? So in this form of contract, you will have principal debtor, surety, and creditor. So when there is default in the promise, when someone breaks the promise in this contract, the primary liability will be on the principal debtor. But on his default, there will be another liability which is called as secondary liability on the surety. So it is termed as a surety's liability is coextensive. So this is mentioned under section 128 of Contracts Act. You can look into that. And maintenance pendenti light. So direct question, section 24 of Hindu Marriage Act. So maintenance pendenti light is nothing but where either spouse, anyone, let it be husband, let it be wife. So where either spouse can claim the expenses and maintenance while the matrimonial suit is pending. So this is maintenance pendent elect. So I'm just adding here one thing. Remember section 125 of CRPC speaks about maintenance where only husband needs to provide the maintenance for wife, children, and parents. But here you will use the term either spouse. So any of them, right? So now going to the next question, which speaks about what are the incidents of joint family or co-partnership property as per Hindu law. So here, this is also some question which you need to think and write it down. So you will write about what is a joint family property. So what is co-partnership property under section 6 you will write. And you will write their unity in ownership and possession of it. So right is created by birth. Liability is also created. Even daughters have the equal right as sons. So you will also write the karta management, like how will karta, the head of the family, manage the property here together. And you can also write the right of survivorship here. So, and how will the property be divided, like alienation of the property. So you will mention all these things under incidents of joint family or co-partnership property. So explain the theory of blending. Guys, this is also from Hindu Succession Act. The theory of blending is something that, so blending. What is blending? So if you just decode it, blending is you're mixing it something. You're blending it. You're combining it. So what you are combining here? So if any person, that means for example, if a co-partner's self-acquired property is mixed with the joint family property, that is called as theory of blending. So whereby a co-partnery property, a self-acquired property, and the co-partner is okay to mix his own self-acquired property with the joint family property. And here all the co-partners will acquire the interest in it. So this is called theory of blending. So the next question for 10 marks, grounds of judicial separation divorce available to the husband and wife. So there are different grounds under different sections. So first you will write what is a judicial separation and what is dissolution of marriage or divorce under section 10 and 13 respectively. And after that you will write grounds under 13 of 1 and separate wife grounds on 13 of 2 when she can avail divorce, and 13b for mutual consent, and 13a, 13(1)(a). So you will write everything. So all these grounds when a judicial separation can be asked, and other grounds for cohabitation, judicial separation, restitution of conjugal rights. So if it is lapsed for more than 1 year, you can still ask for divorce. So these are the conditions or the grounds which you cover under question 9 for 10 marks. So the last one, the 10th question. So here you have three parts, A, B, C. The first one, when can oral evidence be excluded by documentary evidence? A direct question which is under section 91 and 92 of Evidence Act. So here you will write when the terms of contract, grant or disposition of the property have been reduced to writing, then no oral evidence shall be admitted. So you will write 91 and 92, and exceptions are fraud, mistake, and so on. So you will write these under 91 and 92 of this particular question under A part. So B is also a direct section related question which is asked from Contracts Act section 65. So it speaks about obligation of a person who received an advantage under void agreement. Suppose, let us say, for example, if A pays B some amount of 10,000 for a contract that becomes void. Now it is the duty of B to refund that amount. So this is what you have to mention it while writing your section under 65 related to part B of this question. So now the last question in civil paper, what is burden of proof? A very direct question, right? So 101 section from Evidence Act. So what is a burden of proof? The obligation of a party to prove the facts asserted by him in the court. And on whom would the burden of proof lie? So you will mention that also. So initially on the party who would fail if no evidence is given. So if no evidence is provided, which party will fail? That party is liable to prove to or to have the burden of proof. So I hope now the entire paper is clear. So we'll make a video on the criminal paper as well. So this is how this year's civil paper has ended. So overall, the paper is very easy. So for the first timers also, it is a good start so that they can have a confidence that they can write in every question this time. And for the aspirants, those who are preparing for so many years, it's a very good paper to say. And as this is a easy paper this time, there will be a lot of competition also, because the one who writes the exact sections and clear cut definitions will be getting into the next stage of the JCJ exam. So we'll meet you in the next video with the criminal paper analysis.